Hello and welcome to episode 71 of the Loaded Dice podcast. Joining me tonight is my illustrious co-host, Doug.
That's me. Excited to be here. And our glorious Captain Andrew is leading us in this evening. How's it going?
Yeah, it's good. It's currently 10:30 at night after one of those days, you could possibly say.
Yes, capital T, capital D.
Yeah, so no, definitely an episode that almost didn't happen.
Yep.
But no, happy to be here. Hopefully the listeners out there in Listenerland will enjoy this episode. Probably a shorter one than normal, although I think that could sometimes be a good thing.
Yeah, and we say that, but then often we get sidetracked talking, Star Trek or something else, and away we go.
Three rabbit holes later, and that's like fucking 5.5 hours. Yeah,
and so on.
But what we're planning on chatting about this evening, dear listeners, is Doug's games, because I haven't played anything in a very long time.
And I've played a ton.
Well, he's been sort of carrying the playing on his side of things, which is great. And then we wanted to have a bit of a chat about one of those sneaky sort of things that, is never quite there when you need it, and that's motivation. As a bit of a plug into Games Workshop's latest releases and things like that. So
yeah, for sure.
But I guess we'll kick off in normal fashion, Doug. So what have you been up to in the hobby, mate?
Yeah, what have I been up to in the hobby? I have been working on new knights, which has been a lot of fun. The Brush with Destiny Instagram has been awash with new big robots. So what did I do?
Everything. Everything's looking pretty amazing. I saw you sort of built a Cerastus Dominus class.
I did. Yes, partially for the joy of triggering all of the Cerastus purists by making it Dominus, by making it a Dominus instead, but also just because I wanted something particularly for games of heresy, right, where your Knight Seneschal is meant to be the biggest, beefiest badass on the table. I wanted her knight to stand out, so it was a Cerastus with some shoulder-mounted cannons.
No, that sounds pretty good. Now, do you think that like at the next Australian census we're going to see Cerastus Purist as a religious choice?
Look, I'm surprised it hasn't been put on there already. I suspect though it will probably be one of those sub choices, so it'll be like Resin Purist Cerastus only, or like Resin Purist, Resin Mark IV. Rather than all the plastics, which anybody can get a hold of, right? It takes real dedication to only run a Resin Mark IV armor.
I'm sure I've still got a whole bunch of Resin Mark IV armor sitting in a box somewhere. It sort of just became the most disgusting stuff in the world after they released Calth.
Very much so.
Like, I spent all this money. No, I don't want anything to do with it.
It's like all the people who are like, oh, it's got to be... Which one did Prospero have in it? Mark III, right?
3, yeah.
All the people who are like, it's got to be Mark II. Like, no, I'm happy with Mark III. I'll take it in plastic, to be honest.
The only thing I like much more about Mark II, because I've got 20 Assault Marines that are all in Mark II armor that I built probably 6 months ago now and haven't looked at them since, but that to me is recent in the hobby. But there's no trim except for the shoulder pads, which makes them infinitely better as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
But they are resin. That is very true. Although then again, it's not like you don't get plastic Assault Marines. You're only getting plastic tactical guys. So
yeah, but you can turn them into Assault Marines if you need to. And besides, let's be honest, nobody's using stunty Marines anymore anyway, so even the Heresy is going to be awash with Mark 10 Tacticus pattern power armor soon.
That's it.
All the intercessors and reavers that you can handle.
I keep seeing people making like Imperial Fist Breacher Marines using Primaris dudes.
That would be cool.
And it looks very, very cool. Like it's only the easiest way to do it is to dump like a Mark II or a Mark III helmet onto a Primaris dude. Swap his backpack over, because there isn't a huge difference in size in the backpacks.
No.
And then go with like an older bolter or that sort of thing, and chuck a Shapeways shield on his arm or that sort of thing. Like there's a ton of those floating around that look fucking amazing.
Yeah, well, it's really cool stuff.
Yeah, like I've always waxed lyrical about Primaris guys. Like I guess it's it's just for me it's that like the size difference to everything else.
Yeah.
That I just much prefer. But
yes, for sure.
So other than Knights, what have you been up to?
Me too. What else have I been doing? I finished off some more because it's been a little while since we've done a segment like this. I finished off most of my RTLW stuff now, so I've got almost everybody for Eisenhorn's retinue that I want, and I've bought everybody who's currently available for Ravener's retinue.
Nice.
Which is cool. So I've got Kara Swole built but not painted, but everybody else is painted and has a nameplate, courtesy of Versatile Terrain, and is good to go for whatever the hell I'm going to use them for eventually. For now, it's just sitting around looking pretty.
That's it, just looking pretty on a shelf.
Yeah.
But I'd love to.
You go.
I was just gonna say, I'd love to play some 28 mil like Inquisitor or something like that. What are they called? Is it Inquisimunda or?
Yeah. Where you use the Necromunda rule set to do your warband type stuff, or just any rule set that works.
Well, that's it. Like, there's probably even like some good there'd be some good D20 ones out there that'd probably make a whole lot of sense. But yeah, that'd be cool to do that. But I think I'm kidding myself if I even, sort of thought about it for 5 seconds while sitting on a train or something on the way to work. I think that'd be, kidding myself that I've got too much time.
Yep. No, that's fair. I think I've been trying to fit them into Kill Team.
Yeah, actually, that's not a bad idea. Yeah.
As a way to just sort of still put them on the table somewhere. Because let's be honest, I'm not going to use them as an Inquisitor and Acolytes in a 40k list because they're crap.
Probably not. They don't even they're not even servo skull caddies anymore.
No, I know.
So
maybe different kinds of assassins, but that's maybe a bit of a stretch. So yeah, I finished them. I read Claws of the Genestealer, which is the new Warhammer Adventures, or not new anymore. There's a new one that's about to come out, but.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I thought I saw that pop up on Facebook the other day when you picked that up.
Yeah, the second book in the Warhammer Adventure series.
So how was it?
I really enjoyed it, to be honest. It reminded me a lot of, like, the core plot obviously doesn't develop the same way that you would expect a full tilt Black Library novel to develop, and there's no real sort of twists or shocks in the plot. But it reminds me an awful lot of a lot of the short stories that you used to read in those collected works, like Let the Galaxy Burn and Into the Maelstrom and all those sorts of books. Just like fun romps through the grimdark that, draw you in, keep you there for, I don't know, however long it takes to read it, an hour maybe, and then lets you loose to go and paint something.
Okay. All right, I might have to borrow that off you next time I see you, but no, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of gone a bit quiet. Like, every so often you'll see somebody on a fucking neckbeard Facebook page somewhere, pull it up and scream about fucking children and their hobby or something. But
yeah, and that was. Yeah,
funnily enough, a lot of those people, I guess, their dream armies are like a fucking My Little Pony Space Marine army or some shit like that, But yeah. Look, I reckon it's a pretty good idea. I haven't had a chance to read anything. I actually, as sad as this is going to sound, I sort of had 10 minutes between meetings the other day, and I was walking past Galaxy bookshop in the city, and somebody had said to me, "Oh, you've got to read. I've never read the Wheel of Time series.
Oh, yeah.
Books." And they said, "Oh, you got to go and you got to read it. You got to go buy them." And I went, "Oh, you know what? I'm walking past. I'll duck in and I'll pick it up." And that was like 2 weeks ago, and I just opened my my backpack just then, and it's still wrapped up in the plastic bag in the bottom of my backpack. It hasn't moved in 2 weeks, so that's sort of that's the
dear.
level I'm at the moment.
Nice. I also bought the Angron Primarch book.
Oh right, yeah.
Which I haven't read yet, but I'm sure will be fun. But yeah, actually, sorry, just getting back to Warhammer Adventures. One of the things which everybody always complains about is that it's going to PG the Grimdark a little bit, and like it's not descriptive. So if you're really into kind of the gore porn side of 40K, you'll be disappointed.
Yep.
But like, it's not like the Genestealer's giving out cuddles.
No.
Like, it still means to violently end people. And they play up. I think one of the cool things with Genestealers in particular, right, is that Genestealers aren't always just in it for murder, because they're often trying to hypnotize people and grow the cult and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they kind of play that angle a little bit too. Yeah, but no, good book. I enjoyed it. Don't expect it to blow you away or anything, but for a fun read if you've got nothing better to do for a block of time.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I think that's about it.
And I'm guessing it was fairly cheap to pick up, or
yes, I bought it at the same time as Angron, so I couldn't tell you exactly without actually looking at it. Hang on, actually, I'm on the GW site. Warhammer Adventures. It is book 0 is $0. That is not correct. I suspect I've got to go over to Black Library, but I don't think I've done anything else. Have I done anything else? I'm out of Genestealers to paint, which means that I'm not doing quite so much with them as I have been in previous
well, you went through and did all those did all the Ambot conversions and
and
those sort of things.
Yes, I did my Tyranid army. You are quite correct. Thank you. Yes, so I turned 4 Ambots into 4 Tyrant Guards / Bullgren. So they've all got big slab shields and Ambot claws, and all the heads have been replaced with Genestealer cultist heads and stuff. And I did my my Hive Tyrant out of a Iron Circle bot. So there's no getting away from them, even in my Genestealer list. It's always Iron Circle everywhere. And I made my Flying Hive Tyrant out of a Domitar and some mechanical wings I had.
Yeah, very nice.
Which I still haven't.
I have been looking at those with envy. I haven't seen them in person, but no, sort of keen to play against them. I love the sort of like that mining theme.
Yes,
sort of just running through everything.
Yep.
So I'm still waiting for you to build the giant Bane blade with the drill on it.
Yeah. Well, it's maybe we'll see one day. I keep wanting to do like a storm hammer.
Okay, yeah.
And then replacing all the like sponson las cannons with mining lasers and stuff. One day, maybe.
Yeah.
If I ever convince myself that I need the super heavies and not the twin vultures. Because twin vultures are hard to go past too.
Yeah.
Not super themey, I'll admit.
No, but they are. They are.
The mining guys
like a very good choice. Right? Yeah.
And $15 for Claws of the Genestealer.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah, which is pretty good. $17 if you want the audiobook read by David Tennant.
Oh.
Yes.
Actually, here's a slight rabbit hole because you just mentioned David Tennant.
He has a podcast, by the way. I recommend.
Oh, does he?
He does. It's called David Tennant Does a Podcast With. And he just interviews a bunch of people. It's great.
Oh, that sounds pretty good. I have to track that one down and have a bit of a listen. But I actually, I kept having. I've got Amazon Prime.
Good Omens?
Yes.
Yeah. I've been meaning to. I don't have Amazon Prime, so I've got to.
So just as an aside, like if you don't have Amazon Prime, but you have anything like Stan or Netflix or that sort of thing, Amazon Prime is by far the best out of them. It's the cheapest. It gives you the most. You also get the music streaming service that goes with it. And if you actually buy anything on Amazon, you get like free shipping or free expedient shipping if you're buying certain products and stuff, which is all well and good. And I think it cost me like $8 a month or that, something like that. But it seems to have currently the best mix of shows and movies and all that sort of thing on there. Compared to anybody else. But no, I started watching Good Omens because I just kept getting bombarded by like yeah, I'd be on Facebook and it would pop up, and I'd be, like having dinner with my family and it would pop up. But no, really good show.
Yeah.
Really, really good show.
Good.
It's a Terry Pratchett story. So if anybody's not familiar with Terry Pratchett, the genius that came up with Discworld and all that sort of stuff, he's very much, and I don't know, I imagine there's some Pratchett fans out there I'm about to piss off, but he sort of reminds me of the second coming of Douglas Adams.
Yeah. I often hear that about him.
The person who created Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the humor more than anything, because Pratchett's very much a fantasy writer, whereas Adams was, I don't know, let's take a ton of LSD and write some books.
Yes.
But the humor is very, very similar. The characters, like the character tropes, are very similar as well. And no, it's fantastic. And Tennant is incredible in it. He actually reminds me a lot of can't remember the guy's name. The guy that plays the aging rock star in Love Actually.
Bill Nye?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
He reminds me of like a young version of him playing that character.
Oh, nice.
Which is kind of hilarious. But yeah, no, very, very, very well worth the watch. Has absolutely nothing to do with Warhammer, but I would imagine that anybody that, just generally the sort of people in the hobby, I would imagine would enjoy that show.
Yes.
Well worth the price of admission. And like everything, I think they give you a free month, which would give you more than enough time to get through the 10 episodes of it or whatever it is that's been released.
Yeah.
So
interesting. Well, maybe we'll fold Stan and jump on Amazon instead then.
Yeah. The only big downside, and I don't know if this is a downside to many other people, but I've got everything set up in my house with like Google Chrome and everything else.
Yep.
Amazon doesn't work through Google Chrome without all sorts of fairly severe workarounds.
It's a shame.
So I kind of just watch it on my mobile phone while I'm on a train and, that sort of thing. As opposed to sitting around watching something else. But apparently there are ways to get around it. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
But there you go. That's a rabbit hole.
That's fair.
So do you want to update us? You've been playing a ton of competitive 40K.
I have reasonably competitive, which has been good. So sort of local tournaments rather than big stuff. Although I did just buy my tickets for Battle in the Bush up in Orange in August.
Yeah, very nice. I actually saw that you were quite interested in that. And I was kind of like, how do I get a leave pass to go away in August?
Yes. Yeah.
So battle in the bush has been like, I want to say it's been going for like 5 or 6 years now. Like I remember it. Yeah. Like I'm sure it's sort of 5 or 6 years old by now.
Sounds about right.
And it was originally, I think it was really well known for being like a big fantasy tournament or something like that. That was sort of the first time I remember sort of hearing anything about it.
Yeah, I think that's about right. That's because they used to be really big on that side of things. And then did they jump over to 40K when everybody shit themselves over Age of Sigmar?
Yeah, I've got no idea.
Yeah, that's fair.
But no, it's one of those things that definitely here in New South Wales, it's sort of one of those events that's always seems to be around and looked forward to by quite a lot of people. I'm just having a look at the details here. So it's Saturday, 31st of August to Sunday, the 1st of September.
Yep.
At the Orange City Bowling Club. Tickets through Eventbrite.
Yep, $50.
Okay.
So not bad for a couple of days of gaming, I guess.
And you're playing 40K for that.
Yes.
Because there's a few different things you can play, isn't there?
Yes, I think the tickets are just general.
Okay. Yep.
And I think I think if you're doing like one of the other separate things, you can sort of buy the tickets separately for that. Like if
Right.
there's like a Legion or I think there might be a War Machine one going. They're just selling their tickets separately.
Okay. Cool. That
But
sounds
it's a
good.
70 player cap, which is good. So it makes it pretty big. It looks like there's about 30 on board at the moment, 31 including me.
All right, well, that sounds pretty good. And you get to go to the amazing city of well, calling it the city of Orange is probably maybe overstating it, but
Yeah,
hey,
the
it's
enlarged township of Orange.
yeah, definitely that time of year. It might be snowing as well.
Yeah, it might be actually. It may be bitterly cold, which would be great. But yeah, so standard ITC missions. I think everything's going to be ranked as well for ICT.
Yeah, no, it seemed
ITC,
to
sorry.
definitely seemed to
Yeah,
suggest that, which is pretty cool.
which is cool. Which means
Although,
I've got to figure that out and get all my practice games in. Make sure I'm choosing the right secondaries.
That's it, playing with magic boxes and all that sort of fun stuff.
That's the one. Yeah, so that should be good. But anyway, sorry. That's games I will have played at some point in the future. But for now, games that I have played, I've been playing up in the Hawkesbury, which is a bit north of where I live. And they had a tournament on, how long ago was that now? A month and a half ago, which was a 500-point combat patrol tournament. And I thought, oh yeah, it's only an afternoon. If the players are complete assholes, it's not too bad. I haven't wasted a whole day or even a whole weekend playing 40k. So I'll go out with my Genestealers and see how I go. And I won that particular tournament.
Congratulations.
Which was nice. Thank you. Best overall and best painted. Which was great. So don't ever let anyone shit on your particular painting style, because I won best painted with a wash painted army.
No, that's all right. I think we're about to see a brave new age of contrast painted armies, and they're basically wash painted armies. So
Exactly.
nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was really good. I can walk through my games reasonably quickly if you want. So my first game was against a guy named Sean, who was playing Space Wolves that he's had since 3rd edition or so not super optimized for 8th edition. And Space Marines are in a bit of an awkward spot at the moment in general in 8th. And that was a reasonably comfortable victory for me off the bat. He pushed forwards with his wolves. I pushed back with my aberrants, and there were far fewer wolves at the end of that turn.
Yeah, that's generally what happens when things run into your aberrants.
Yes. Then I played against a friend of the show, Adrian, and his Mechanicus, sorry. And that was my loss of the day. I'd played all of my practice games against him, so he was wise to my tricks.
Just ran away from your aberrants. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, and the Patriarch charged Call with Might from Beyond up, so he was strength 8 with 8 attacks with all of his warlord traits and stuff. 3 wounds to Call. And that was it. And then Call hit back and just murdered my Patriarch, and then everybody else died. Oh, yeah. But that was fine. So the dice let me down a little bit, but, as is always the case in a game, right? It's never the dice that really let you down. It's you doing something stupid, and the dice don't quite carry you over that stupidity.
Like Charge and Call, I guess.
Yeah, I just kind of overcommitted, and then all that meant was that everything hinged on a couple of critical rolls, whereas I should have played a bit smarter and held off for a turn or something. But that's okay. And then I played against Russell. Russell had Necrons, which was cool. So an Overlord, a couple of little units of Immortals, and some Death Marks.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Necrons is a bit of an interesting choice, but
yeah. So that was interesting. His Lord used his Veil of Darkness to get out of combat with the Aberrants and into combat with my Neophytes, or with my Brood Brothers, which he felt a bit more confident about, which was fair enough. The Aberrants then ran across the board to chase him down and beat him to death. So, that was fine. It all balanced out. And then So that was another win for me. And then my last game was against Gary, who had all of the, what are they called? The Shadow Spear guys.
Oh, okay.
All of the fancy Primaris
Yeah,
sneaky
yeah. It's completely eluding me at the moment, but
infiltrators.
yeah, I think that's
Yes,
one of the
10
units, isn't it? Yep.
infiltrators in a squad, 3 eliminators, which are the snipers.
Yep.
The fancy captain, I think the lieutenant as well, and 2 land speeders.
So how did they go?
Well, this is a game where we did the deployment phase 3 times.
Right.
Because basically, so the missions were all bespoke for the thing, and they all really, as I was playing through the practice games, Adrian and I figured out they all favor Genestealer Cult. But this mission in particular is one player places an objective, the second player places an objective. The objectives have to be 9 inches away from each other, and then you deploy within. Sorry, no, they have to be 12 inches away from each other, and then you deploy within 9 inches of your objective. Does that make sense?
Yep. Okay.
So you kind of throw an objective down, and then your deployment zone is the bubble around the objective marker.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So the thing which I think was not considered for that is that if the Genestealer player deploys first, you can't deploy your models within 9 inches of a blip.
Yeah. So you can just completely stop them from playing the game, basically.
Correct. So he put his objective on top of a building. I put my objective 9 inches directly underneath his.
Oh God.
And then deployed all of my blips. And went, off you go.
Were these missions written like pre-Genestealer Cult book? Or...
I think they were written for like 6th edition, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
They haven't had much of an update, I don't think, for a while. But I suspect they will now.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty good conversation on its own, actually. I think is something that's, very much overlooked unless you end up in conversations about like ITC and ETC missions and the way that things work. But
yeah,
for all the conversations about net listing certain things, I think the mission is incredibly responsible for what happens. I know this sounds really obvious, but if you have a really well written mission, I think you can have very balanced games of 40k.
Yes, for sure.
And I think if you don't think about the mission, I mean, like the person who's writing the mission, whether it's Games Workshop, because they're, they write some absolute bloody ridiculous missions from time to time. But, it doesn't matter who it is. And like I've EO'd events and written missions for them. And, at narrative events, you just kind of go, oh, screw balance. We can do what we want as long as it tells a good story. But it's kind of central to everything.
Yes.
And just because you've got an army that works well in one particular scenario doesn't mean it is going to work well in something else. Obviously, there are some armies that seem to be quite strong across everything. But I think between, points values and mission selection and that sort of stuff. And then I guess is the other one as well is you guys had already played all these missions, hadn't you? You had like prior knowledge on what they were and when they were going to end up in the event. Or...
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Which is also like massively different to somebody turning up to an event and just, oh, well, what's the mission? What are we playing? Oh, okay, we're randomizing out of the rule book, or we're doing this, or we're doing that.
Yeah.
Which I think also comes into it. I don't know, like, what's your thoughts? Do you like the idea of turning up blind and not really knowing, or would you prefer to be able to play them ad nauseum beforehand?
I think if you rock up blind, then the guy who's the quickest thinker, like the most sort of flexible tactician wins, because they're just kind of reacting to whatever comes up. And if you're the quickest on the draw with the quick fire kind of changes in tactics, then you've got the edge. Whereas if you give everybody what they need to know what's coming in terms of the missions beforehand, then the person who has, almost irrespective of whether you're quickest on the draw or not, the person who has the better plan kind of wins, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan of knowing the missions beforehand and being able to play them. Was it Bell of Our Souls Who are they? Forge the Narrative. I think we're
Yeah.
talking a little while ago about what to expect in terms of terrain density as well, right? So depending
Oh
on if
yeah,
you're
actually,
going to,
I think I did catch part of that
yep,
episode. Yeah, and they were saying that, once upon a time, I think it was Adepticon, like
yep,
for a few years, was running very open boards, and then the last year they sort of did the fairly standard line of sight blocking,
yep,
double L shapes, and all the rest of it. And that sort of plays into it. Yeah, no, I think that's fairly important as well as, like whatever you're playing. So like, I guess a good example is Battle in the Bush that you're going to go to in a couple of months' time.
yep,
Now it's ICC mission, so you know what that is. You know how the games are going to play, as you joked before. Like you've got to work out what your secondaries are and everything else. But are they known for having lots of terrain, not a lot of terrain? Are all the boards going to be fairly standard terrain setups? Or are they going to be, this is a jungle world and it's super dense, and then this is a hive world and it's all city fight sort of stuff, and then over here, well, this is just a fucking bowling green. Like, what's it going to be? How's that going to affect you as sort of like, I guess, setting up for competitive events?
Yeah, exactly. And I wonder if that's where some of that, like the quicker tactician gets the draw by reacting to the table, but everybody gets the chance to react to the mission in a way that sort of is helpful. Because these missions in particular, right? I'd play them out with, for the combat patrol tournament, I'd played them out with Adrian a couple of times, and they were missions that I could see clear paths to victory in for the Genestealer Cult basically every time.
Yep.
And so that was good, but also meant that I wasn't really necessarily engaging with my opponent terribly much.
Well, that's that comes back down to, like, why does anybody play competitive sport?
Yeah.
And is it, does somebody sign with Manchester United because they want to give the bloke at Liverpool a good game of soccer? Or do they sign and play for them because they want to win a premiership or whatever it is? So I think that's something that's going to be there. And, as much as there's the narrative side to gaming, I think it's basically a completely different game to if you're like, okay, no, it's competitive, ITC is competitive, and you want to go and play the hard as nail game. Like, there's obviously some sort of, like, you like that sort of game. I'm not saying like you personally, like you obviously do, but I'm saying if that's what you sign up for, then that's what you sign up for. And everybody in the room should be, hey, this is what we're doing. This is why we're here. Don't cheat, obviously. But you want to bring a hard list. You want to look at where you can get a foot up on your opponent. And obviously, Genestealer Cult and that Combat Patrol set of missions. And I sort of read through, if they're the ones that you showed me ages ago.
They are.
Yeah. So, like, very, very obviously, they weren't taking into account quite a lot of the current meta for the game and even the current rules for the game. Which is fine. Like, everybody knew that, beforehand. I guess if everybody looked at them and, Genestealer Cult's going to romp all of these, they could have gone and picked up Genestealer Cult armies if they wanted to. That's an option that's out there. So,
pretty much. So that last game, like I said, I won that one just by deploying underneath him, which felt very Genestealery, I guess. But then I was like, all right,
they came from below.
That's right. Now that we've done that, would you like to remove your objective? And he was like, sure. And I was like, great. Hard on 12 inches away from you, I'll put my objective down. And I'm deploying first, so I'm going to deploy right on the edge of my 9-inch bubble. In the end, I was encouraged by the TO to be nice and let him deploy his land speeders slightly outside of his normal deployment zone, because otherwise they wouldn't be deployed and he'd have to spend command points putting them in the teleportarium. Which was a shame because that was kind of the point. But I was like, it's fine.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know how to feel about that. Yeah, that's honestly a little bit off for a TO to be like, hey, this is a competitive tournament, and we've fucked up writing this mission pack. or we haven't bothered updating them, or whatever it is. So the one person that's done the right thing, which is you, in terms of you've picked the hard army, you've picked the hard list, and then you've gone through the mission pack as it is and worked out how to win. You're the one that's got it. Yeah, I don't know.
Sorry, it was 2 land speeders because the rest of his army had infiltrate, right? So all he did was he just deployed outside of his deployment zone, basically.
Yeah, well, no. Well, then that's the thing. You know, like he would have had command points to be able to put them somewhere else. So I don't know. That seems off to me. I would never suggest any TOs ever get involved in games like that, especially not a competitive thing. If it was like some sort of narrative you're trying to tell, and it's like, oh no, well, can you please do this? Can you please do that? Because this is what we want to do over here. Well, then I think that's fine. But yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, the whole point there, right, is that because it's combat patrol, we've all got, and it's all one patrol detachment, we've all only got 3 command points. So if I can bleed him of 1 or 2 before the game even starts that he wasn't expecting to have to spend,
100%, 100%.
That gives me even more of an edge than my extra D3 command points per game was giving me anyway.
Yeah, no,
I think that's an asshole.
I think that's actually pretty poor form from the TOs to sort of make you want to do that. Like the reality is that, you know, if their mission pack allows you to stop him from deploying at all, well then that's a win in your column, and you hand that in on the sheet and you walk away. The fact that you were happy to replay it and then pull your punches the way that you did. Yeah. I don't know. Sorry, that just doesn't sit.
It's fine. Also, it was 2 land speakers, so it's not like it was. And so basically, he then went on to make the mistake of deploying as close to me as he possibly could, and I had first turn.
Oh god, that's not good.
Yeah, so the Aberrants just went into his infiltrators, murdered literally all of them, and then consolidated into his snipers before they could shoot. And his captain, who doesn't have a power sword, he's only got a fancy bolt rifle. The Patriarch charged both the land speeders because he can't be targeted by Overwatch, murdered one of them, severely damaged the other one, and then that was the end of turn 1.
Fair
so it was over by turn 2 anyway. It didn't really matter. But yeah, and I guess I can understand it's the last game of the day. You know, you want the guy to at least have a game.
Oh no! Well, look, but I get the feeling that like you and him had sorted that out.
Yes. Yeah.
By even re-rolling and going back again after, you know, what he did in his first deployment sort of thing. To that, yeah, I don't know. For me, it's the TO intervention in a competitive event when the problem is very obviously the way they've written their mission pack. Yeah. And they couldn't be bothered fixing it. And I'm not a fan of lazy TOs. Sorry.
That seems fair. That seems fair. But yeah, so that was fine. That was that. I wasn't best general on the day. That went to, I think, Oscar or Oliver. I can't remember his name, and I don't have the list in front of me anymore. He was playing an Imperial Guard list with, I think, 2 Punisher Russes sitting in it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he just, because it's combat patrol, lots of people have lots of infantry, so he just brought back the leaf blower, right?
Off the table. Yeah.
And best theme went to Sharon, who ran Tyranids and had some very pretty orange bugs.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Which is neat.
So is that going to be, is that sort of like a regular thing, like a combat patrol tournament, or is it just, was it a one-off and they're going to do bigger things next time, or?
Well, I think, is it this weekend or next weekend maybe? They're running a 850 point doubles tournament where your partner changes every game. So it's just kind of random doubles the whole time.
That's kind of cool.
Just
I like
kind of
that. I like the insanity that could ensue from that.
Yeah, my biggest problem is I don't really like doubles games. I don't play well with others.
No, that's very true.
I would almost rather just play both of them with even fewer points than they had in Genestealers and just cult ambush them and murder them. That's fine.
Well,
not to be cocky or anything.
What you should do is go and find some find some wino up there, pay for his ticket, and just go, you're going to do exactly what I tell you. I just sit there and drink, and I'm going to tell you what to do.
That's right. Yeah, but that's okay. So that was, I'm sure that'll be fun for the guys. But I think next time there's a single player tournament up, I'll go back out. That was fun. I enjoyed it. I had fun. Opponents were good.
What was the facility like? Was it at a game store or?
No, it was at like a community center.
Okay, yeah.
Which had the space to put up some tables with lots of space in between for trays of stuff and all that kind of thing.
No butt-to-butt action.
No, not really.
In between tables, no, that's good. That's always a big plus.
Yeah, and padded chairs, which is always good too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I had a lot of fun with that.
All the creature comforts you want while you're playing.
That's right.
Warhammer.
Yes, that's right. Everything you need to enjoy a game of Warhammer, and drinks for sale and snacks, which is always good too. So, yeah, I mean, deployment shenanigans aside, shout out to Pete and Ben for putting on a good tournament. Yeah, and congrats to all of the winners.
Yeah, without a doubt. If people want to find more, so is this the, and I might have this completely wrong, but is this the Hawkesbury Gaming Club?
It is. So if you're in the sort of Sydney area and you want to check out the Hawkesbury Gaming Club, they're on Facebook as Hawkesbury Gaming Club. Most of their events go up through there or through Tower Games, which is the hobby shop up that way, with the FLGS. Yeah, but worth a check out. They've normally got something going on. Like they had an escalating Age of Sigmar tournament not too long ago that started at 750 and ended at 1250.
Yeah, nice.
So you just kind of played up in points every time.
I think actually talking about the Hawkesbury Gaming Club, I just jumped onto their Facebook page. And
I see that. I've just approved you.
Oh, thank you very much. And wow, real-time Facebook approvals. Woo-hoo.
I know, right? Madness.
So I'm guessing that the Saturday, the July 27th, Unexpected Allies would be their doubles tournament. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, that's the one. Yep.
Okay. So each round randomly paired with a teammate, and on top of trying to win, your teammate will be scoring you and your army. That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. Oh, wow. And it's actually quite a late start. It starts at 2 p.m. and runs through to 9 p.m.
Yeah, so the Combat Patrol started at 2 and ran until like 5 or something because it was a smaller game, obviously. But yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's a very interesting way to do it, actually, which is kind of cool. Running it in the afternoon means you can sort of, I guess, take the kids to Saturday sport in the morning and then go and play some Warhammer.
Yep.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, which I suspect is the idea, which is good. Let some people play who probably couldn't make it down for an all-day kind of tournament.
Yeah. And looking at some of the names of the people signed up, I do know some of them. So that might be a very interesting day of Warhammer if anybody wants to get out to the Hawkesbury Gaming Club. Awesome. Yeah. So any other games you've been playing?
Yes, actually, as it turns out, after the Combat Patrol, so the week after the Combat Patrol, Pete and Ben started off the Hawkesbury League, which was a lot of fun. So that was, I guess, kind of the next logical step from Combat Patrol, right? Because it was 1,000 points instead of 500, and then it was one game a week for 5 weeks, with like a ladder system week to week to keep track of who's winning. So again, on the Hawkesbury,
so it's almost like the next level in like a escalation kind of idea.
Yeah,
that's what it sounds like to me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And certainly if you'd played in the tournament, then you'd kind of had half an army built, good to go for the league as well, which was cool. To keep it simple, we played the same mission every week. So it was always tighten the noose. Narrow the search. That's the one. Bloody hell. I'll remember which mission it was eventually. I've only played it 5 times in the last month. But that was the one where there's an objective in the middle and the scoring zone shrinks turn to turn.
Yep.
With a maximum of 5 turns and a time limit as well, which I think we only really bumped up against once. in my playthroughs. But the idea was that it's still meant to be a fairly tight, quick game. Record your results, and then sort of gear up for the next week, which was cool.
Yeah, very nice. So how did you go with that one?
Good. In fact,
So the 5 weeks that would be finished by now, wouldn't they?
yes, yeah. All well and done. It finished on the 2nd of June, so which was cool. So I played. I can run through my opponents again and chat about the games, but basically I ran undefeated for the whole thing.
Very nice. Congratulations. It's what we expect from our co-hosts.
That's right. Yeah. Being good at 40k, right?
Yeah.
No, so that was really good. So it was a lot of some games were real nail biters. I mean, and it's always the case with these sorts of things, right? That you get the guy who's and my first couple of games were like this, right? Guys who haven't played for 10, 15 years and are coming back in to dip their toes back in, and you've built quite a harsh list.
Yeah, so you were clubbing baby seals for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I played against Brennus first, who hasn't played since, I think he said like 3rd edition or something, but had got back in with bloody hell, same thing, Shadow Spear. He had the Chaos side.
Nice.
No, he didn't. He had the Chaos side of Dark Vengeance. Sorry, ignore me.
But okay, so it's some Death Guard guys.
No, that's Dark Imperium. Dark Vengeance was the Chaos versus Dark Angels one.
So by my reckoning, that means that Shadow Spear should actually be Dark Spear.
You would think, yeah.
Based off
the naming convention.
Right. So that was God, what's his name? Crimson Sworder guys.
Yes. So it was a Chaos Lord. Yeah, just stuff that he'd bought and never done anything with for years. A Chaos Lord, a Hellbrute, 2 squads of cultists, and some Chaos Marines. He also had a Sorcerer Lord, I think, in Terminator armor, and some Raptors, which was cool. But he was trying to pull deep strike shenanigans with the Lord, with the Sorcerer and the Raptors against Genestealer Cult, who just outpaced him on the redeploy, obviously. Yeah, but that was a fun game. He pushed up hard with some of his elements and made me sweat for a bit, and then the aberrants showed up and things started dying. So that was a win for me. And then I played against Caleb, who did have the Shadow. Now you've got me confused. Dark Spear, Shadow Spear, Shadow Sword. So he had the Venom Crawler and some other bits and pieces, and a squad of bikes, which was quite cool. I then immediately forgot how advancing works in relation to charging. Namely, that you can't charge after you advance. And made some real stupid moves in response to his bikes advancing. And so he almost snatched a win out from under me on that one. And the final score, which was 6-3, doesn't quite reflect how close that was for a few turns there.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it sounds like if you had a few good games.
Yeah, which was quite good. And who did I play next? Chris. What did Chris have? Chris O'Neill. He had Skitari. My old nemesis, since Adrian beat me in the tournament with Skitari. That one was quite close as well. Skits are hard to kill. But snuck a win out. Then played against Sharon, who had 72 Termagants that I had to try and fight through, which was quite clever. She'd clearly built the list to reflect or to win the objective, right? Because whoever had the most units inside the score got the point turn to turn.
72, you'll just be able to lock everybody out of it.
Yeah, exactly right. At a certain point, you've got enough bodies that they just can't get in.
Yeah.
So that it was mostly just a matter of time, right? If I couldn't kill them in the first 2 turns, I wasn't going to catch them. But I did, which was nice. So that was a win for the cult as well, just. And then my last game was against Kevin and his orcs. I played against boys for the first time. So 2 big squads of 30 was the main bulk of it, with some mech guns and some looters and stuff scattered around.
So how did the looters perform in that one? Because I sort of hear mixed reports on them.
Yeah,
Especially because that would have been post FAQ.
it
So
was.
you're not mobbing up anything except for boys anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poorly, in a word. They killed one 40-point Brood Brother squad.
Oh wow.
And that was about it. I was using terrain pretty well, though, at that point to stop them doing much, which was good. But that game was also my first recorded use of a plan Generations in the Making, which is the Genestealer Cult Vect equivalent.
Vect, yeah.
Yeah. Because he was going to use his 2 command points to automatically pass a leadership test with some boys so that he could green tide them.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And bring them all back. And so I went, nope, counterspell. And they ran away instead. Which is the story of how my 60-point Kellamorph killed about 300 points worth of boys.
Very nice.
Which was nice. But yeah, that was a good game too. Kevin fought pretty well. That one really boiled down to that alpha strike, right? Whoever got the hit off hardest in melee in that first turn was the one who was going to end up winning. And the cult just killed him.
Yeah, I also get the feeling that especially at that points level, your cult army's got a lot of, well, as much redundancy as you can have in a list like that. Like there's a lot of tricks you can play, whereas
for sure,
I guess the orcs don't. Like they're just kind of like, okay, we're going to go with a big block, and if it doesn't work, well, what other tricks have we got?
Yep.
Oh, nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I also got to use one of my Vigilus stratagems actually in that game. I got to pull different tricks out of my bag, which was cool. So the one that lets aberrants fight even after they die.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So he killed about half of them with his big block of 30 boys, but they all got to hit back anyway.
Yep.
So it just made a mess out of them. And yeah, that was over the course of turns 2 and 3. He lost all 60 boys.
Nice.
No, turn 2, actually. Just in turn 2, he lost all 60 boys.
Ooh. So after playing the tournament, after going through the league and all that, is there anything you'd change about your list? Is there anything that you'd do differently next time?
As good as they were, I would potentially swap out the aberrants for more acolytes.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, and ditch the anointed throng altogether and go for Deliverance Brood Surge.
So basically just completely change the army. All right.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah.
So talk me through that one, because I'm not.
The aberrants are great at what they do, which is, what's the Wolverine quote? I'm the best there is at what I do, and what I do is not good, or whatever. They are basically, as far as I'm concerned, the best that there is at what they do, which is kill things.
Yeah, hit stuff like a truck. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And the hypermorphs in particular, right, are fantastic. 6 attacks with effectively a Thunderhammer.
Yep.
Is just hard to go past. But the problem with them is that the points I'm spending on them is points I'm not spending on extra models to contest the objective. So there were quite a few games where I basically gave away the first 2 turns worth of points on the objective because I didn't have enough bodies to contest until I had put the aberrants in to slaughter everything.
Right.
So if I had, like, instead of the block of aberrants, I reckon I could fit in, instead of 7 aberrants, probably about 20 acolytes with various weapons. So it's just maybe not quite that many, but something like that, which is just extra bodies, which is helpful.
So are you getting to the point where you're looking at more like a horde list, or?
For that particular league, if I were playing the league again, probably, just because I know it's going to be narrow the search every game.
Yeah, okay.
And then I can throw them up and sort of contest that way. And Deliverance Brood Surge is quite good as well. The Warlord trait you get from that lets you re-roll charges, which is not to be underestimated when you've got a 9-inch charge.
Yeah,
no, 8-inch with 4-arm Emperor.
That's pretty incredible, actually.
Yeah, the Abominant adds 1 to charges. So you go from a 9-inch charge to a 7 if they're 4-armed Emperor off of a deep strike, which is good. Yep. But I don't know, the reroll on charges feels useful.
More useful. Okay. And is it one dice or both dice or
both? I think.
Okay. Yeah.
One or both. I can't remember. I'd have to double check. But I'm using an icon ward anyway. I'm using acolytes probably anyway in this mission because the objectives are right in the middle of the table, so I don't have to sit at the back somewhere with a squad of them. It's stuff like that. I've got more board control because I've got more bodies. They've still got a 6-up feel no pain, which isn't bad. They're still hitting at strength 5 if they're near the icon ward, if I give him the relic. So they're still pretty freaking good, is the thing. Because that's strength 10 with rock saws.
Yeah, well, they've always felt like a bit of a Swiss Army unit to me.
Yeah, there is that.
Like you can build, like you could have several units of them all built completely differently, and they're going to work differently. And then you throw all the shenanigans on top of it for deployment, and would you still be getting the extra command points in that list?
Yes, because I'd still have the Brood Coven going, so the Patriarch, the Primus, and the Magus.
Right. Okay. Okay.
The Primus, because then they'd be. The other thing is that a lot of the aberrants are -1 to hit with their hammers, or all the aberrants are -1 to hit with their hammers.
Yeah.
So I'm getting them back to a 3+ to hit with the Primus, whereas the acolytes are hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s.
Yeah.
With 4 attacks per dude, 3 attacks, 4 attacks per dude. The Magus gives them all Deny the Witch, which isn't bad, and the Patriarch makes them all fearless. So it's just a nice little sort of collection of rules that filter into each other. And then all 3 of those guys get a Warlord trait. So the Patriarch always, or tends to, for me, get +1 attack, +1 strength.
Yep.
So he's 7 attacks at strength 7. The Magus gets Inscrutable Cunning, so that's a +D3 command points at the start of the game, because that's just helpful. And the one I've kind of landed on for the Primus is the one that we had in the index, or in the first chapter approved, actually, which is Focus of Adoration, which means that all infantry units within 6 inches of the Primus can heroically intervene.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you charge 1 squad of acolytes and the other 2 just wrap around.
Yeah, it's sort of like close combat Tau, kind of.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there's just some cool stuff like that I think I could pull off with Brood Surge. The tricky part would be that then they're all toughness 3, not toughness 4, which is what the aberrants get.
Yeah, one of the things that I always liked about the aberrants, didn't like it when I was on the other side of them, but they a lot of stuff in that army just doesn't stand up to anything.
Yeah,
like if you
agreed.
Yeah, like if you do get a table that's kind of, there's not a lot of terrain out there. You're not going to, you can't hug the terrain or whatever it is. And you got to save some of those points for other things apart from jumping around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like even bolters and stuff kind of make short work of them.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And it's always that trade-off between, well, what do I need the Patriarch to charge so that the next thing that charges that particular target doesn't get shot by Overwatch? Because even Overwatch can, sort of mince an Acolyte squad if they're not careful.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I guess that would be the only thing I might change. But at the same time, like, I can't say that the aberrants didn't work because I went 5-0. So, maybe I wouldn't change it. Maybe I just, by the time I kind of started playing, I was like, all right, I'm going to give up 2 or 3 points a game just because I'm not going to be able to contest the center objective until turn 3.
Yeah.
So assuming that that's the case, what do I need to do to make sure that I get more points than the opponent could possibly score for the rest of the game?
Yep.
And so that normally involved having some random 5-man unit of acolytes show up in their deployment zone for line breaker, and killing their warlord as well. So that's 2 extra points, which basically offsets the 2 I lose at the start of the game. And then, assuming that the plan has worked, by about turn 3, I'm already scoring points on the center objective again anyway. So,
well, yeah. And I think the other thing is that it sort of shows the importance of just playing the mission and understanding the mission and everything else, and obviously playing the same mission 5 times you know, but that in itself is probably worth doing if you're interested in being a competitive player. Is, you know, you do need to play, if you know what the missions are, you know what you're aiming for, you need to play them ad nauseum. And I know,
For
you know,
sure.
everybody I know that plays ITC, you know, on any sort of regular basis anywhere in the world, that's kind of what they're doing, right? Like, they're playing ITC Warhammer 100% of the time, because it's just keep playing those missions, keep seeing what combos people are bringing. And then every time Games Workshop puts out an FAQ or something like that, the game sort of completely changes again. Like, you almost get like a new edition to some extent. And then it's like, quick, let's do everything again to see if it's still the same or not.
Yep.
Yeah. Very nice. Very nice.
The other thing I might have done, actually, just thinking about it, is I might have taken a guard detachment for my second detachment.
Okay.
Because nobody took flyers, but there was no restriction on flyers. So I may have just taken 2 vultures.
2 vultures or something like that, plug it in and go. Yeah.
Parked them somewhere, particularly against like that NID list, right? Just mowing down.
Oh, yeah. You would have eaten that list in two shooting phases, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then like a big block of Ogrins or something to sit in the middle and just push up to kind of do the aberrance job. I don't know. But then I'm not getting as many command points, and one of my big wins was that I was the only person with 2 battalions.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's all, you know, I'd have to really sit down and shake it up, but I was happy with the result, so it's not like I'm going to change it.
Yeah. You can't really say that you... I guess it's one of those things where, you know, when you have the undefeated season or whatever it is, you know, there's always that temptation to sit there and go, well, no, we did everything right, and we'd just do it exactly the same again, and would you know, run through undefeated again. To be able to sit there and go, right, we've won the game, but, you know, could we have done certain things better? Could the list be better? Could the piloting of the list be better? And everything else is something that's worthy of consideration. It's definitely something I can't do.
Yeah.
I'm usually just so shocked that I've won a game of Warhammer that I'm sort of in this sort of euphoric haze for about 4 weeks afterwards.
And that was the thing, right? There was probably about 2 games in there where I know my piloting almost cost me the game, but I don't think there were any where I was looking at it and going, my list is going to cost me the game.
Cost of the game, yeah.
So
definitely sounds that way, yeah. So it sort of sounds like the NID list was the only one where the person had sort of decided they were going to wholly play the mission and try and put sort of a curveball list out there for it.
Yeah. I think one of the guys I didn't play, Oscar, who was the guard player who brought the Punisher Russes for the Combat Patrol tournament, I think he'd brought something similar with just massed guard with a couple of Punisher Russes at the back.
Okay, yeah.
Because I know he beat Sharon and her NIDs in, I think, the second week or something, just by playing the same kind of game that she was playing.
Yeah, well, I would imagine that maybe orcs. Even then at that point, even at those points levels, you know, guards probably got it over everybody else for ease of putting that sort of chaff on the board and having it useful with the orders and everything else.
Exactly. Yeah. I think they're all of my games, really. I played another couple of games against Adrian as well, actually, just fun ones at home. Genestealer Cult got ruffle stomped by a guard Mechanicus hybrid list.
I get the feeling it had 3 hellhounds in it or something like that, if it was Adrian's list.
2 and a devil dog.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And then I got a bit shitty about that, and so I went, fine, fuck it, I'll run my knights, and crushed him back.
But these were fun games at home, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I've just come off a 5-win streak, right? And then again, it's Adrian who beats me. So I'm like, damn it, got to put him in his place. Yeah, but that's one of those things that I need to, like, because they were bigger games than the league as well, right? They were 1750, I think. And Genestealer Cult starts to lose some of its edge at those bigger games, which is something I need to be aware of for Battle in the Bush.
Yeah, I definitely think from looking at what's happening, because the only sort of thing that I get to do at the moment with 40K is to watch games, read results, listen to podcasts, and that sort of stuff. The actual playing of the game at the moment for me is a bit difficult, but I think with in the right hands, they're definitely a top tier army to some extent.
Yep.
Like I think they're definitely a lot of it's about the person piloting the list as opposed to
For sure.
just. I'm trying to think what doesn't really work. Well, okay, like the Imperial soup list with just big knight, some guard, slam captains, whatever it is, like it's not particularly difficult to work out how to play that army effectively.
Yep.
The learning curve is really quite flat on it. Whereas I think with Genestealer Cult, from what I've seen and from people playing it, and some of them are very, very good players, it is very steep. And the thing is, it's almost like you've got a deployment learning curve with
Yes,
Genestealer.
100%.
Well, no, sorry, you've got a list building learning curve, because I think there's definitely the lists that seem to do the best from what I see, and this is mainly over in the US and Canada, are Brood Brothers lists.
Yeah.
So sort of like, I guess, guard soupy Genestealers.
Yep.
But there's also pure Genestealer Cult lists that I've seen do quite well. I haven't really seen any that have been Nids and Genestealer Cult so much.
No. The only time I've ever seen Nids and Cult do well is when the Nid section is the Swarm Lord and like 40 Kraken Genestealers.
Oh, right. You see, I haven't even really seen that sort of thing pop up.
Less so since the FAQ came out, because they've nerfed that a bit.
Yeah.
So it was like the only thing that was worth sort of taking at a competitive level.
And I think the other thing with Genestealer Cult that, and I always say this too, but it's because I usually get my ass kicked by them, is at smaller points levels, things like your Kelemorphs are just so incredibly good. Their versatility and their small points, just goes, wow, they're incredible at 500 points or, even 1,000 points.
Yes.
2,000 points, it becomes a bit different.
Yeah.
They're still quite effective, but obviously, taking out, basically making an entire unit of guardsmen up and piss off because you killed so many of them in the shooting phase doesn't matter me at 2,000 points. The way it does at sort of 500 points sort of thing. So, yeah. But no, that'll be interesting. Be keen to see what your list is like for Battle in the Bush. Have you already got one written and you're sort of playtesting it now, or?
Not really. There's kind of that one that I floated in our group chat a little while ago. That's Tyrannid's Guard and Stealer Cult.
Yep.
But I think I'm going to dump the Nid section.
Dump the Nids out of it and maybe put more into Guard, or?
The only thing I really like about the Nid section is that it lets me take 2 Brood Lords, which then gives me 3 Patriarch equivalent models on the table. And 20 Genestealers. So it's basically, it's basically kind of what I was talking about just before, right? It's a Deliverance Brood Surge with an Icon Ward and a bunch of Acolytes, a Patriarch and a Primus. I did put Aberrants in, a big block of Aberrants. And then, or did I take them out? I might have taken them out. And then the Nid list, which is 2 Brood Lords, 20 Stealers, and 6 Rippers.
Yep.
The Rippers are just there to fill out a battalion and sit on an objective somewhere, I'm sure. And then a Guard Vanguard, which is a... What did I put in there? A Priest, an Astropath, 5 Bulgrins, and 2 Vultures.
Oh, Jesus Christ, yeah. Okay.
So I figure 5 Bulgrins can start on the table and tank some hits for me.
Yep.
If nothing else, backed up by the Astropath. The Vultures just rock up and do what they do.
Vulture stuff, yep.
Yeah. Vulture around a bit, I guess. And then all the Genestealer, and then all the Cult stuff ambushes on and starts messing stuff up.
Yeah.
Because I think it was 3 squads of 15 with Roxors.
Ooh.
Was the Acolyte kind of contingent of that, and a Kelemorph.
Yeah.
Just to go, that's a character. Brat. Not anymore.
Yeah.
Something like that, but I want to workshop it. I don't know if I'm happy with the Genestealer section, like the Pure Strains section, except that they're really good for, if I get turn 1, I can throw them up the table and just like engage or clear out a screen without too much trouble. But the Vultures are kind of doing that for me anyway, so do I need them? And it's all those sorts of questions, right? The standard am I overcommitting to screen clearance when the vultures will do, and what could I be doing instead with the points that I'm spending there, and all that sort of stuff. I haven't played any games,
and then obviously needing to and making sure it plugs in with the way ITC works with the scoring and everything else. I would imagine is probably pretty important. So that sounds really good. I'm glad that one of us is able to actually take part in the playing of games at the moment.
It's been a lot of fun. I've actually, because I know we've talked on the podcast before about being a little bit trepidatious is maybe the wrong word, but being a bit wary of going into competitive stuff.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think that's something that sort of that always plays on anybody that is considering it. It's because all you hear are like with anything, you never hear when things are particularly good.
Yeah.
They have to be so incredibly over the top good for somebody to make a comment about it. But the moment that somebody turns up and they haven't worn deodorant, well, there's 80 80 Facebook posts these days about it.
But for the record, I had good fun. I don't think I had an opponent I didn't enjoy playing against for the whole thing, for the tournament or the league.
As long as the people that you played said the same thing about you, it sounds like it was a good deal for everybody involved.
That's right. Yeah. So, I'm keen to keep that rolling at Battle in the Bush. I don't think I'm going to go undefeated there. There are some big-ish names from what I can see that are going to take part. But I was chatting to friend of the show DJ about this a little while ago as well, in that like you can go to a tournament and not really compete, if you know what I mean. Like you can just have fun, muck around in the mid tiers and sort of just have fun, right?
that's what it is. Is it's kind of like if you want to go to a tournament and win a tournament, well then you're prepping everything else, and the way you make decisions in the lead up to that tournament is going to be very different to somebody that's like, I just feel like going away for a couple of days and playing some Warhammer.
Yeah, exactly.
For a lot of people, a tournament is the best way to do that.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And so I think a couple of people were thinking, like who I was talking to about wanting to go, were saying, "Oh, how competitive will it be? Do I have to bring really hard lists?" And I'm like, well, as long as you hang around at the middle or the bottom and you don't really care where you place.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah, that's it.
But I'm keen to sort of push as high as I can go, if you know what I mean. Like I really want to try and play the competitive game a bit.
Yeah, perfect.
Play the mission, list build to the mission, pilot my list with as few errors as possible, that sort of stuff. Like actually push my name up the list a bit.
Yeah, cool. Well, we'll obviously that when was that? End of July, beginning of August?
End of August.
Start
of September.
Beginning of September. So yeah, I will do a bit more lead up to that, and I imagine hopefully I'll be able to maybe give you a practice game or two in that time as well.
Yeah, do it.
Could be a bit of fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, we should probably push on to the mainish topic for the evening.
Yeah.
I'm having a bit of a chat about this because we're sort of saying, well, like what's Games Workshop doing at the moment? And it's paints, right? So it's contrast paints and the air paints being re-released, and there's some new normal paints, I guess you'd call them, being released at the same time. But obviously the contrast is what's getting all the airtime. And yeah, we could just talk about some paints, and that's great, and the ideas behind them. But I think one thing that we can kind of cloak it in to some extent is a conversation about motivation in the hobby, because it's something that I definitely have been struggling with recently. And by recently, I mean for the past couple of years. Just in regards to obviously like the older you get and the more things that end up on your plate, you have families and kids and jobs and, insurances and all sorts of not particularly fun stuff. It takes up time and money. It's really hard to kind of, I guess, stick to the hobby. Even though it might be like, hopefully it's very enjoyable for you. And you get something out of it. And if you don't, well, why the hell are you even wasting your time? But, as long as you enjoy some part of it. And one of the hardest things about Warhammer, and then most tabletop games would kind of be the same as it is. Not only do you have to spend fairly large amounts of money to buy the stuff, and you got to assemble it in most cases, you got to paint it as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's, there's so many barriers, there's so many points where you can just switch off and you never get any further. And I think everybody listening to us, maybe not yourself, Doug, but I know, like everybody's got piles of crap that they buy and never do anything with. You have a great idea. Yeah. And we sort of asked on the Facebook page the other day, what all of our listeners out there do as far as motivation and trying to become motivated to do some more hobby. And let's be real, we're talking painting here more than anything else.
Yeah, for sure.
So I might just pick out a few of these comments here. So if Facebook wants to let me see the comments on my own Facebook page, that'd be great. Okay.
No, so what are you talking about?
So Mr. Metal himself, Henry Steele, from Cult of Paint, said books. So and that's one that quite a few people have sort of said is, go and read a book about the Imperial Guard if what you want to do is be painting Imperial Guard. It'll get you really hyped up for it, right? Go read some heresy books if you're painting heresy stuff.
Yep.
So I know Elliot Young sort of said the same thing. And I know he's been doing a ton of painting recently. So he keeps popping up on all the 30K pages and that sort of thing. So he's obviously reading an absolute ton of heresy, which is great.
Yes.
What else have we got in this list here?
There's a couple of guys talking about event paint, like painting 2 events.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to pick Lucas's comment here. So Lucas is one of the guys from the Midwest over in the USA. I know he's a mate of Dave Comans and was at Dave's recent 30K event. And he's saying, yeah, events, man, I get shit painted when I want to play with it at an event, which I think is what I was kind of saying in the main post. That sort of motivates you when you kind of lock yourself into an event by buying a ticket or, planning it with your mates as a weekend away and that sort of thing. And you get sort of really hyped up about what you're going to do. So there's a ton of different things, like even Double Dip Damo was saying, looking at my unpainted pile and picking out a model I want to complete. Which is kind of an interesting one, because generally if I ever actually look at the pile of crap I haven't painted, it has the opposite effect on me. But obviously he's a bit of a glutton for punishment, so I think he...
Yeah, and I wonder if it's because he picks one model out of it rather than just going, here's the mountain.
Well, yeah, that's probably a good point as well. I know he's working on an ogre at the moment. I think he's working on one of the old man-eater models, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that's another way I guess people can look at it there. But there is a comment in here by Ashley Cobb, and Ashley says, "Contrast has given me hope. I'm not gonna lie." And then, and this is and that's a great comment from Ashley. I don't know Ashley personally. I don't think. I know he comments a bit here and there. He's from the northern wastes of Queensland. But the one that really got me is Andrew Hollis, of all people, the godfather of heresy in Australia himself, said, I've actually ordered some paints after testing them out, as well as some brushes. Cult of Hollis Painting Studio, here I come. Now, if anybody knows Andrew, he's absolute legend, one of probably the best, EOTO I've ever come across. His community building is, second to none in this hobby. But one thing he's never done is painted anything. Everything gets commissioned by people. I think you've done some commission work for him.
A little bit, not a lot. Ben's done some as well, I think.
Yeah, friend of the show, Ben's done a bit for him. And he's got a massive, humongous collection, right? He has to paint himself. So to hear that he's sort of motivated to do some painting because of these new products coming out from Games Workshop is, they're onto something when he's buying paints and brushes. So that's pretty fantastic. So Doug, I guess, as a commission painter yourself, You know, what's your tips for the listeners on how to motivate yourself? Like, how do you do it?
Commission painting is an interesting thing, right? Because money is the motivation at the end of the day. If I know that I get paid at the end of a job, then I will eventually do that job, particularly if cash gets tight. And I'm like, well, that unpainted pile of plastic is, $400 or whatever. So I guess I should probably do that since I'm, behind on bills. Or that night over there is this week's rent or whatever. So it's like, so that way, as a commission painter, I guess that's sort of the motivation. As a hobbyist, sometimes I find that the fact that I've done a whole bunch of stuff for other people is my motivation. Like I'll have finished a job for a client, and then I'm like, well, now I'm going to take some time and paint some of my stuff before I jump back into this next commission. Yeah, which I guess doesn't really help everybody unless everybody wants to be a commission painter, but I don't necessarily recommend it. But the other thing is just kind of, I like Dave Carpenter, for examples, like 10 minutes a day.
Just
that stuff.
Yeah, we've talked about that quite a bit. I know he commented on it as well. Yeah,
which we've talked about before, and is a good sort of way to start doing stuff. Gets you into a good habit, potentially. But also just having not even necessarily an event to build towards, but a project that you want to finish. So I tend to think in quite discrete projects, which is good and bad, right? Good because it means that I get a project done. Bad because it means that to keep painting, I need another project to do.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that we don't have a hard time doing as hobbyists and gamers is coming up with project ideas. It's just so many of them are just left in that nascent kind of, sitting on a train one morning and coming up with a great idea, or reading a Black Library novel and going, oh, wouldn't it be great to do some of this stuff over here? And
yeah, and I think that's where I know we talked about it at the start of this year, but that Honest Wargamer kind of army for a year concept kicks in.
Yeah.
Because I've been quite committed to the Stealer Cult this year for 40K, and I think that's probably worked to my advantage to keep me focused on doing Stealer Cult stuff. Almost to the point where when the 30K event that you mentioned in January, sort of once it turned out that I was probably going to be going to that as well, I was almost annoyed.
That it was going to pull your attention away from the Stealer Cult.
Exactly. Now I've got to paint these other like actual Imperial things rather than rearmed monsters. But that's fine, I guess. I can paint.
And look, I think that's a great point, and everything comes down to self-control, and the conversation about motivation is realistically a conversation about what do you do when the motivation runs out and disappears. Because actually, if you manage to motivate yourself, you should be fine. So if you can read a book and you can keep getting that adrenaline hit of motivation every time you need it, then you don't have a problem, right? You'll get whatever you want to do finished, and that'll be fantastic. But it's kind of about the self-control and the discipline to keep doing stuff when you don't want to.
Yeah, and I wonder if, particularly for, not to keep harping on about them, but what I've been painting this year, my Stealer Cult, the fact that I've been doing them as a wash painting army just means that by the time I've run out of motivation, I've actually gotten like 3 squads done.
Yeah,
and so I think that's where take a break and then come back to them later.
Yeah, and I think that's the great point about, you talk about wash painting and something you've been doing for quite a few years, right? But that's what a lot of people are about to experience with contrast paints is literally what you're doing and have been doing with washes. It's just the washes don't have as much pigment, so you might be doing 2 or 3 coats of wash, whereas you can now just do 1 coat of contrast and all that sort of fun stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it is literally about, we're all suckers in this day and age for like instant results.
Yes.
And we want to see stuff, and that's something. And like I talk to people, like I'm actually pretty good post the MKA painting course from about 3 or 4 years ago that I did with Matt Kane and Henry and Andy Wardle and those guys. Because one of the things that Matt really sort of hammered into me, because I was like chauffeuring the guys around while they were out here in Sydney. So I got a lot of, backstage time talking to them about different things. And one of the things that he said to me is, he goes, I get the feeling like your big hobby issue is that you don't have a lot of time. And I'm going, no, I don't. And he goes, one thing you've got to realize is sometimes you get halfway through doing something and he said, it looks like garbage. And he's like, that's not the time to pull a plug and either leave it sitting there or strip it and try something else.
Yeah.
He's like, you know, you need the discipline to go, okay, I'm going to paint this, you know, squad of Space Marines. And it's going to take me a week of, you know, an hour a night or 2 hours a night to get these guys painted or whatever it is. And he's like, when you paint in the style that they were teaching us, he's like, until you're probably 85, 90% of the way through, a lot of the schemes can look like utter garbage.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
And then there's like these few steps that just absolutely transform it into being, you know, really fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I don't paint really anything these days to an MKA standard at all, although I'm trying to do that for my Blood Angels for the 30K event in January, it's something that's kind of stuck with me. And I've kind of gone, yeah, no, that's kind of true, because I would kind of lose the motivation halfway into painting something. And so I would either get, like, say, a test miniature done and then maybe replicate it once, but you need 10 dudes in a unit and you need several units in an army, and then that's, you kind of like fall over that way.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the new contrast lines are really going to, it's almost a silver bullet for that. You're not going to have to worry about it if you can, you know, punch stuff out as quickly as it seems that you can punch stuff out with them.
Yeah. I think so. And I think that, like, kind of picking up on some of those threads that were thrown out there, right? Like, if you can get something to a point where it gets past that rubbish stage in a single sitting, then I think that really helps with motivation.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Is if you can see results that quickly,
Yes.
you can keep that motivation wave going on, and you don't ever need to find the discipline and the self-control. And for some people, it's just like, I'm one of those people. Like, it's just not there.
Yep.
Like, trying to paint one of the things that's still sort of sitting on my my painting table is the Cadian 122nd, right, which is a camo scheme. And you haven't known pain until you've been, you know, you've painted 30 or 40 guardsmen and you're just doing the black camo stripes on all their fatigues.
Yep.
And it's like, and like I'm pushing through with these guys, but it's like I haven't touched them for a while. I've been painting, you know, completely different. I've been painting Game of Thrones miniatures because I just don't want to paint camo at the moment.
Yep.
So even the idea of that, and I was like, oh crap, because I know that I need 2 hours to do a 10-man squad. Like, just the black and white camo, forget all the other parts to it, just to do the camo on them. And it's not even amazing looking camo, but it's just to get the effect that when you look at them at 3 feet away, oh yeah, that's black and white striped camo. It's at least 2 hours of solid painting. Or it's probably 4 hours if it's multiple sessions to sort of get through all of it. So, and I know contrast paints isn't going to help me camo stuff up, but if it reduces the time I spend on all the other stages in the paint, spending 2 hours to do all the camo is completely acceptable and doesn't become the slog and the problem that it does otherwise. If that makes sense. Like, it's kind of about reducing time in certain areas. Now, okay, if you contrast paint the entire army and you only use contrast paints, that's the sort of like the highest efficiency. But even if you can drop a few steps here and there in normal paint jobs using the contrast paints, like, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and you haven't had to play around with the contrasts yet, have you?
Oh no, God no! I did actually make it into a Games Workshop 2 weeks back, but they didn't have any in yet. It was before they'd even pre-ordered, and the guys were like, "Oh, they haven't even sent them out. They've just told us to build like 800 Stormcast guys and have them ready to go."
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah," but no, like I've watched Ash Barker Guerrilla Miniatures has been doing a ton of videos on his YouTube.
Yep.
That's literally just him painting in real time with the contrast paints and painting all sorts of different things. So he painted, like he did a Black Power armor thing with it. He painted a big monster. He had a go at painting like some tank panels and things like that, which sort of seems to be the only thing that they're not going to work well for, is big blocky vehicles.
Yeah, I'd suspect you'd have to use them in a slightly different fashion if you were going to use them.
Yeah, yeah. He sort of went, you need detail,
Yeah.
or else he's like, it's not really, it's just thick paint after
Yes,
that.
I can't imagine an old school Rhino is going to do terribly well with it.
No, and I think that was exactly what he was trialing it on, was like a rhino side panel or
Yeah,
something.
but maybe like a devilfish, because that's got a lot of those grooves and stuff all over it. Might come out,
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't know. You'd, like I said, you'd almost have to still have your base color go down, and then maybe use the contrasts in a different way to make them work. But I haven't even thought about vehicles yet. I'd have to play around with it. Yeah.
yeah. So you got in and painted some stuff the other day. You painted a Stormcast guy.
I did. I put my car in a 1 hour parking bay and went in and waited around for 15 minutes while the manager finished up lunch, and then got to play around with contrasts. So in about, I reckon, about half an hour, I knocked out the Stormcast guy that's on our page at the moment and on the Brush with Destiny kind of feed. Just mucking around with contrasts, using as many colors as I could think to create a unit that looked somewhat presentable. Because I know some people have just gone in and painted each panel with a different contrast to try and test them all.
Yeah, just to see what they all look like, kind of thing.
Yeah, I was kind of more of the idea that I wanted to see what a finished model would look like with the contrasts going.
Yeah. Which I think is probably a bit more useful than going, well, I need to know what the brown looks like, so let's paint his foot in brown.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So I guess what were the positives and what were the negatives of using them?
It's quick. Like I said, I cranked out that Stormcast in about half an hour. And that was with 2 layers on some areas. It's very similar to my wash painting technique, right? So I've been doing effectively what this is for a while now. This just has more pigment.
Yeah, you're an old hand at it. So do you see yourself completely giving up the washes you've been using for the last couple of years and just using contrasts in their place? Or you still think there's some things that the washes do better than the contrast paints?
I almost wonder if I'm going to move away from using any metallic colors on my wash painted models anymore, and I'll use the contrasts for that.
Okay, and use
like the gunmetals.
Okay, so like non-metal, like almost do like a bit of a non-metal metallic.
Yeah,
contrasts. Okay,
yeah,
that'd be cool.
I could see moving away from, particularly thinking about my Genestealer Cult, I might move towards one of the darker red contrasts instead of constantly trying to use Carroburg Crimson or whatever it is.
Yep.
I think for the skin and the armor plates on the Stealer Cult, I'd probably still use the washes, the purple and the blue. I think just because I like the slightly washed out look on them.
Yep. So it's like a continuity thing. That's how everything else is painted. And
yeah, and I think also, even if I were starting fresh, I think I prefer it to have a little bit of that, a little bit more of the undercoat showing through than the contrasts allow. Having said that, I don't know that unless I'm doing like a display piece, I don't know that I'm ever going to do skin without a contrast color again. The skin works really well.
Yeah, that's what I've seen a lot of people saying, is that the skin's really the standout for it.
Yeah, and I've seen some good tutorials for doing non-metallic metals with contrast as well, like a non-metallic gold.
Yeah. No, I saw a couple of those pop up the other day, and was kind of like, oh wow, yeah, that'll be pretty cool. And you've used, like, I'm just looking at your Stormcast guy here on the Facebook page. So what was the yellow that you used on the armor?
So actually, that's Yanden yellow, which you can see under his left armpit. You can see what it looks like natural, like by default.
Okay.
So that's slightly lighter yellow. And then over the top of that, I hit it with Guilliman Flesh.
Oh, okay, right. So you kind of like washed it up, yeah.
Exactly, which is why it's a bit darker in and in some areas than it is elsewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was.
I put the yellow on, and I was like, it doesn't look like gold.
Yeah.
Whereas even just sort of effectively glazing it with that Guilliman Flesh. And what I really want to do actually is hit it with just the standard Flesh wash, Reichland Flesh Shade, to see if it'll sit in the recesses a bit better and not tint the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that you get a bit more of that bright yellow on the edges, and see if that gives it a bit more of a gold look. But yeah, so I was just kind of mucking around with them, to be honest. The axe is the Space Wolves grey, so it's got that kind of blue grey
blue to it. Yeah, no, I can see that sort of tinted through it. Yep.
And then the reds, the greens, and the blues are all just the straight out of the pot on top. I think the blues on the shoulder pads came out quite nicely. You got some nice pooling, like so you get
around
shading around the edges,
around the edges and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and the green I quite like too, actually, for the leaves on the ground.
On the base, yeah. Actually, that's what something I've been looking at is the base and how quickly it's sort of painted that up.
Yes.
And it looks really good.
Yeah, it's basically the same way of, it's literally the same look that I've been using for my Nighthaunt bases in 1/5 the time, which is really good. I will take that any day of the week.
Oh, 100%. Well, that's what it's all about. You know, cut down the painting time, especially the like bases. You know, I don't know anybody that likes actually painting bases.
Yeah.
It's always, you know, the last thing, and it's a slog, and like even just having to like I haven't based any of my guard guys, and just thinking about that sort of no, don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But yeah, they work pretty comfortably. I didn't have to thin them down or anything to get them to sort of pool naturally in dark areas and pull away from the edges, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I mean the leather color on the little Patergi thingies hanging off his tabard is quite nice.
Yeah, there's some photos doing the rounds that I know that Ben dropped into one of our group chats that's got, I think they're bases, actually textured bases.
Yeah.
With, you know, the two different undercoats and then just a white undercoat as well, and then all the colors put on it.
Yep. Yeah, I'm keen to see them over as
that sort of thing. Yeah, maybe one of them is. I'm not too sure, but there's like 3 different styles of undercoat, and then you see it across it, and it's the yellows and the browns are the ones that are really interesting me more than any of them. Like one of the Ultramarines blue looks kind of interesting because I'm sort of looking at. I'd love to do my Crimson Fists really quickly using this stuff. I've just got to find the blue I'm happy with, and I'm not sure any of them fit that bill, but I'll grab some maybe this weekend if I get the time to do it, and sort of have a bit of a play around and just sort of, you know, pray that it is as good as I think it's going to be.
I was going to say, well, in terms of endorsement, I had to muck around with them, yesterday?
Yep.
I've now pre-ordered.
Oh yeah, and you ordered all of them.
So, you know, even if I don't use some of them for ages, like as a commission painter, if I'm doing a tabletop commission now,
yeah, you don't get a hard time doing anything else.
Contrasts, and that's about it. You know, even tabletop plus, I might even use contrast for most of it, and then just pick out the details.
Yeah.
To be honest,
and look, if it looks like what we're seeing from a lot of people, like not just yourself, obviously, with that one, but you know, like there's some people that have had this stuff for 6 weeks now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, like seriously, some of the stuff that's coming out, and I don't mean like people that are 100% painting the miniature with contrast, but adding it into regular techniques and, you know, just cutting down those steps. Like the flesh one's obviously the one that's really there in everybody's minds is like, oh my God, like there was a Beastman floating around today that was painted up. And the guy was like, yeah, this was like 20 minutes from undercoat to this. And there were a bunch of questions going, oh yeah, but what did you do with the flesh to do this, and this? And he's gone, oh, no, that's just straight out of the pot, straight onto it. And there are people going, nah, that's bullshit. There's no way.
Yep.
No, it's just straight out of the pot, just straight onto it.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, it is that good for some of those colors. So yeah, look, I'm super excited. I'm hoping to knock the 2 projects, as I said, you know, Crimson Fists is one of them for me. And it's quite a small project. It's only about 1,000 points at the moment, and it's all kind of infantry. So I reckon it'd be, you know, hopefully I could knock that out really fast. And then the other one is actually my Steel Legion that I put to one side to do the Cadians. There was somebody that was, there was somebody that actually painted a Steel Legion dude up. and he said he used one of the, I want to say it was Agros Dunes.
Yep.
Agros Dunes. He used one of the blacks for like the equipment, one of the browns for the pouches, and then he did like just one highlight over the top of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at that and I'm like, that's exactly what I want. And I've been trying to do that with an airbrush and like 5 highlights and washes and all sorts of shit.
Yep.
And I'm not even really happy with that. And this dude's just good. Hey, this is exactly how you do it. These are the paints to do it with. And you'll be painting these dudes, 15 minutes a pop because they're little metal miniatures.
Yes. Yeah.
And it looks awesome. And I've got, 160 infantry or something like that to get through. So I kind of go, I'd love to give that a go. And those guys are already all primed black. So I'm definitely going to try like a Zenithal with probably the Gracier undercoat, and see how that all goes.
Makes sense to me. Have you seen on Warhammer Community, John Blanche has had to play around with them too?
I did see that, and it looked like he'd just dipped everything in the pots of brown paint.
Just about, yes.
But no, he actually he sort of gushed about them. And actually, if there's anybody that does enjoy like the what do they call it?
Blanchitsu,
that's it. It's like a strange sort of dog breed. They sort of work perfectly for that because you get like a lot of his drawing, painting, and then like his miniature painting, and people.
I was going to say he paints like drawers, right?
Yeah, it's very
brown,
pigment heavy browns, but like the pooling is actually part of the style as opposed to something you want to get rid of. So the fact that you can get these to pool really well, it just like he was painting some Nighthaunt stuff, and it did like if what you like is that Blanchitsu, and I know some people hate it, I know some people love it. Perfect for it.
Yes, great for it. If you are into it, it's those browns at the least are worth a pickup, I think.
Yeah. So look, I think hopefully that's given some people out there some ideas as far as motivation for the hobby goes, and obviously it was a bit of a stealth. Hey, let's talk about contrast paints. But anything that gets people painting, anything that gets more people into the hobby and breaks down the barriers, means we get more ideas, we get more cool dudes in the hobby and cool girls in the hobby, and that's awesome. And I might actually get something painted.
That's right, exactly.
Which personally is awesome, which is really great.
What people, and including us, have been saying for ages, right? An all right painted model now is better than like a Golden Demon winner never.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about having the painted model in the hand instead of having 2 of them in a bush somewhere, because that makes all the sense.
But yeah, even if you do like almost to the tournament kind of 3-color minimum, right? If you're doing a Space Marine, you do contrast blue for the armor, contrast yellow for the trim, and then contrast gray for the gun or something.
Well, I think the other really great thing with this, and talking about like 3-color minimums and all this sort of thing, that this is now actually going to make TO's jobs even easier, because you can set the minimum requirement as being a contrast painted miniature.
Yep.
And then everybody knows what that is. Like, because 3-color minimums were always a really difficult one, and there were so many provisos on it that it was like, fuck off. You're just trying to be difficult at this point. Paint your shit if you want to fucking come to a fully painted event.
Yep.
But yeah, the minimum can now be a fully contrast painted miniature. Every surface covered in contrast paints, and kind of go from there. And I think that would work. You can still say like a minimum of 3 contrast colors, but that would probably give you a fairly good looking, army on a table.
For sure. Yeah.
So any final comments from yourself, Doug?
Not really. I think even if you're an experienced painter, obviously contrasts will form a part of your arsenal. And I think even if you only pull them out when you are feeling demotivated and you just want to knock a project out to make yourself feel better, that is fine. Then you can go back to your top tier kind of hyper detailed, whatever the fuck. But if you can just crank out like a squad of nids and say, look at that, I have finished that, and I did it all in an evening.
Yeah. I think that's I honestly think that's the real special part of these paints, is how it's going to keep that roll on with projects for a lot of people that have never had that in the past.
Mhm.
Even more than, like, say, getting into airbrushing and the rest of it. And then I guess the one thing I want to leave people with is, if you don't like the idea of contrast paints, don't use them.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing that we can do as humans with free choice and opposable thumbs. Don't like it, don't fucking use it.
We can elect to not dip our brushes in contrast paints.
Awesome. Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed episode 71 with us. Not entirely sure what we're going to be talking about next episode.
Warhammer, I'd guess.
Probably.
Maybe not, though. Who knows?
Maybe more David Tennant.
I was going to say we may have watched
would be okay.
by then. Yeah.
Oh, actually, before you go, did you hear that Love, Death, and Robots has been renewed for a second series?
I did, actually. So I'm excited about that. I'm keen to see what they do with that. Also, in non-Warhammer news, since we're there now,
I opened that door. That's fine.
Did, which is a rookie error, but that's fine. Marvel have just put out a few new comics for Star Wars, which are quite good. There's one called TIE Fighter, which follows a TIE Fighter squadron around instead of like what they normally do, which is let's pick a bunch of fucking terrorists and follow them around in their little dinky X-Wings. It's like, no, let's pick some proper military personnel and see how they do life.
Yeah, okay. That's pretty awesome.
Which is quite cool. It's only 2 seasons, or 2, I was going to say episodes, but, 2 comics in at this point.
So are you still getting these through? You said you had like a Marvel comic app or something like that.
Yeah.
Digitally.
Yes, I don't buy them physically anymore, or ever really. Digital's fine because it's not like I'm going to buy one and not open it, right?
Yeah. I think you need to send me the link to that. I wouldn't mind reading those ones. Sounds
yeah, will do. I will send you the link. But yeah, no, that one's been good. What else are they doing at the moment? Age of Rebellion, which is like little one-shot stories for various characters. About some of the Death Star staff are unhappy about the concept of destroying a planet, so Tarkin gives them a dressing down. It's great. Love it.
Anything with more Tarkin in it, man.
For sure. There's a Darth Vader comic where he and Tarkin try to kill each other. I love it so much. It's my favorite. Also, IG-88's first new canon appearance, from what I can recall.
Nice.
In one of the new comics. Yeah.
Yeah, I always had a bit of an interesting relationship with IG-88 because on the one hand, I really, really like he looks cool. Like I remember seeing him for the first time and being like, oh, that looks like a robot that kills people.
Yes.
And I love like the implacable menace of him.
Yes.
What I didn't like was when they kind of there were lots of them.
Yeah. Yep.
Copies and the different, and all that sort of stuff. I was like, just having one of them would have been fine. But hey.
So that no longer appears to be canon.
Oh, okay.
It's just the one IG-88. Who, it's interesting, right? Because there's this, the whole, it's sadly, it's not a big story. It's one short story in a comic that has 3 short stories in it. But it's the whole idea of like, one day people are going to realize that all of the crazy stories that they hear about IG-88 are true. It's great. It's a fun little story that's got him in it. And I'm like, oh, it's great. Finally, he's canon again.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's even one for Porkins.
Nice.
Yeah. Which is great because that was one of the jokes early on, right, when they were doing Star Wars stories for everyone. Did you ever see the movie poster for Porkins, A Star Wars Story?
No, I didn't. I'm going to go and find it, though.
Anyway, enough Star Wars. Check out the comics, though. Marvel are doing a really good job with them. Honestly, I've loved them all, except maybe the main Star Wars storyline. That got a bit annoying, boring. I can't quite tell. But all the Darth Vader stuff is great, and all the one-shots are great. I recommend them.
Awesome. All right. Well, I will give that a look up. And as we said, guys, you'll hear from us again in hopefully 2 weeks' time.
Yes. Happy hobby, happy painting.
Take it easy, guys. Bye.